Good morning, everyone. Wow, we have a number of people here. We have about 150. My name is Hélène Buteau, and I'm a board director here at the Ottawa branch of the National Association of Federal Retirees. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that the Ottawa branch is located on the unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe Nation. We extend our respect to all First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people for their valuable past, present, and future contributions to this land and our country. On behalf of the Ottawa branch, I'm pleased to welcome you to today's webinar, Nutrition and the Gastrointestinal Tract. I hope I pronounced that right. I want to give a warm welcome to our presenter today, Hélène Charlebois. Hélène is a personal nutrition and health coach with more than 30 years of experience as a dietitian and a nutrition expert. Today, Hélène will be going over the role nutrition plays in supporting digestive health and what you need to focus on to help your digestive tract be as healthy as possible as we age. A special welcome to anybody here who is not yet a member of the association. We hope that these webinars will inspire you to join us. And to our members, we hope these webinars will encourage you to maintain your membership. Closed captions are available in both French and English. And to access this feature, click on the closed captions button at the bottom of your screen. To translate to French, click on the little arrow next to the closed captions button and select the translate option. Finalement, veuillez noter que le webinaire sera présenté en anglais, mais la participation bilingue est toujours encouragée. If you have questions, please type them in the Q&A box and I will answer, or Hélène will answer them at the end of the presentation. So that's all for me. And we've decided that I'm going to be Hélène B and Hélène Charlebois is going to be Hélène C. So over to you, Hélène C.
Bon, ben, merci, Hélène B. We got a little confused here when Antoine, our moderator, or our technical support was saying Hélène, and we said, what? So this is how we're naming ourselves. So welcome, everyone. And from one end to the other, I didn't know what to call it. My husband said I was going to call it from mouth to anus, but he said, well, that's a little forward. So I'm calling it from one end to the other. I am a registered dietitian. I talk about gastrointestinal health a lot. Comme Hélène B. le dit, s'il vous plaît, vous pouvez demander vos questions en français, mais la présentation va être en anglais. Mais je suis pas mal épatée que vous êtes capable de la traduire avec ce nouveau plateforme de Zoom. So that's pretty cool. Franchement, là, I've never done that before. So that's cool. Gastrointestinal tract is a big word, big word to say. So I hope I don't stumble upon that. So with my introduction, I am local here in Ottawa and I welcome everybody across Canada. If you do want to get a hold of me, this is my website and also where you'll find all my email and things like that. So the AI definition, sorry, I just have to minimize this up here. Okay. So of course, AI is around now. So my presentation for this, just to look up definitions and things like that. I did use Perplexity and I did use ChatGPT, but mostly Perplexity. So it's a long muscular tube, this gastrointestinal tract. And I think we forget that there are muscles involved because it will, it has to push food through and then it starts at the mouth and then ends at the anus, okay? And through the digestion of food, we have to remember there's the absorption of nutrients, right? And so the absorption of nutrients is where I come in, and it's where dietitians, to prevent a lot of disease states that may be exacerbated in being older, like for example, osteoporosis and things like that. So for the digestion part, we're going to talk about organs and the liver, gallbladder, because they give the enzymes that help with the digestion. So we're going to go through this more specifically. Oh, did I skip another one? Okay, good. So for the nutrition's roles, and I think we need to really remember we eat foods and not nutrients, which is very important to remember. So let's get a lot of nutrients in our food because that's where we're going to get our energy. And it's really the building blocks to your health. And you may say, well, I'm older now, so I have no more blocks to build. But we have constantly evolving organs and skin, and your liver regenerates. I mean, it's very, very important to keep healthy because these building blocks do continue. So for maintenance, you can't read this very well on the left, but I just wanted to show you how complex, and it's really a tube. So the stomach is more like it's like a balloon basically. And it of course expands and then contracts, contracts, contracts. That's just pushing foods to the smaller intestinal tract or the small intestine, and then into the large intestine or the bowel. And what happens after the age of 50 is we start to decrease the absorption of certain nutrients. Why? We have less stomach acid, believe it or not. So much less stomach acid happening. And stomach acid has something called an intrinsic factor. And the intrinsic factor is what helps digest calcium, for example. It helps break down vitamin B12. So these are two things as we get older that we tend not to digest as well, amongst other things. We might have a decreased appetite, our taste buds and the tongue. It's interesting, my grandkids, if I salt something, they find it really salty and I don't. And certain medications as well. So what we need on the bottom there is a diet really high in nutrients, but we have to watch the calories at the same time. So the best nutrition bang for the buck. Okay. Now, what are the pieces? Mouth, tongue, very important. Esophagus, because once it leaves the tongue, it's gone, right? Esophagus, stomach, the upper bowel, the lower bowel, the large bowel, the rectum, and the anus. So we're going to go through these pieces and why it's so important to eat, really get the best bang for your buck. So ingestions, it's really important what you eat because you are in control of what goes in your mouth, and it's very mechanical. Okay, the chewing and the chewing and the chewing. The chemical part starts, well, your saliva, it starts there, but the stomach acid and the enzymes are broken down. And that's where the gallbladder, the liver, the pancreas, they're sending all these things. And once it gets into the small intestinal tract, that only lasts about 4 hours there. It goes down very rapidly. And there's like, is it 24 feet? 28 feet. Anyways, it's very long, but that's through the villi, which are little hair, and the microvilli. So each hair has like a little hair on top of each hair. And that's where all the absorption happens of most of your nutrients. And then the large bowel is where the water gets reabsorbed. So that's where constipation can happen because you're reabsorbing too much water from the bowel. So we have to keep some water in there. And that's where the electrolytes, but we'll a little bit more about that. Okay, so this whole process, and this is the digestion. Well, the digestion part is basically where the enzymes are coming from, and your stomach acid is really helping. So people that are on proton pump inhibitors or the Nexiums or anything that reduces your stomach acid, usually as we age, our stomach acid gets lower. So we can actually go off those medications or decrease them. So you may want to ask your doctor about that. The absorption, as I said, happens in the small intestinal tract, mostly, not exclusively, but mostly. And the large bowel or the large part is where the water and the electrolytes. Electrolytes are things like sodium, potassium, chloride. And those are the electricity of your body. For example, your heart needs potassium. All the muscles need this electricity to work. All our organs need this electricity to work. So that's why your doctor will usually do your sodium, potassium, and chloride just to make sure that your electricity is working well. Sorry, I skipped one there. Okay, so as we age, what changes occur? Now, let's talk about the tongue and the mouth. Certainly we have decreased saliva. So we get more of a dry mouth. Your dentition, very important to see your dentist, very important, even now with the Canadian dental program that they have. Wonderful, wonderful. And chew, chew, chew. I'm going to have a call to action. Is everybody awake? Call to action, everybody. I want you guys to try this because if you're a fast eater, that means that you're not getting all the absorption of your nutrients, probably. Because the smaller the food particle, in your mouth before it gets swallowed, the less your small intestine has to work. So we want to preserve our organs, right? And the more you're going to take out. Okay. So we want every particle to be chewed. Okay. Because if you're going to chew and make the effort to pay all this money for your groceries, we want it to be effective. So, everybody, I want you guys to try this, even your next meal. Use the small fork and the small spoon. I have clients who have put away their big fork and big spoon because you were so creatures of habit, we automatically go. Because you're taking the small fork and the small spoon, you will cut your food much smaller. So just mechanically, just like you just have to think about this. You don't even have to think about chewing because every piece that goes in is much smaller. Okay? Now, this is a challenge. I want you guys to sit with your butt and your back to the chair. Everybody, back to the chair. Okay? Because now I want you to bring your food to your mouth, not your mouth to your food. This is so important. I talk about, Queen Elizabeth, may she rest in peace. Put a napkin on your lap because this is how we should be eating, is like this. I challenge you all to go to a food court or a restaurant and watch people eat. They're all bent over. We're shoveling it in. We should sit back, first of all, to get the digestion, the posture. It took me a long time. My husband kept saying, sit back, sit back, sit back. Oh, it's so difficult. So you almost need a partner with you at the dinner table to like help you there. And then try not to prepare your next forkful. So what we do when we do analysis of swallowing and all this kind of stuff, the people are not even swallowed yet that the next forkful's in. So the bolus is not down the pipe here. So what I want you to do is really don't prepare your next forkful. You could play with your food, you could cut it, but it doesn't go on the prongs of the fork or on your spoon until you swallow. That is tough. My husband would say, take it off, take it off, take it off. Oh, and well, now I eat very slowly now. Well, not very, but slower. And I do catch myself when I do eat fast, especially an apple, I have like gastrointestinal issues. It's really remarkable. So I just put this added one because those are the 4 strategies. But once it's gone, it's gone. So it's very, very important to chew and get all the nutrients. And what better way than to try this and pass it along to your friends and family, because this is really how we should all be eating now, and yet that doesn't happen very often. So call to action for everybody on that one. Now we talked about the mouth and we talked about the tongue. So what happens in the stomach? Well, our lining can become inflamed. This is called gastritis. Some of us have hiatus hernias as we age, which is like a little, it's like you have an elastic band holding like your stomach so that the acid doesn't come out of the stomach. But on the top elastic band, you can get some tears and bumps and stuff that keep it open. So you're getting that reflux coming up all the time. H. pylori is a bacteria that's in your stomach, and the doctor can test you for that. And if you have H. pylori, it will cause a lot of acid and heartburn, but it's just 10 days of amoxicillin. We actually have to kill the bacteria. I have some people that it's killed for life once they do the 10 days of amoxicillin and they never have heartburn again. And some people need to go on amoxicillin once every year, every 2 years, because it does come back. GERD, gastroesophageal reflux disease. So that is when you're going to get that reflux. So you may be on medication. Gastric ulcers. Hopefully now that you're retired, everyone, or close to retirement, this is not happening. And certain medications can certainly play havoc in the stomach. Certain anti-inflammatory markers. If you're on anti-inflammatory medication, the doctor may put you on some kind of acid reducing medication just to counteract that. It's crazy. It's like one counteracts the other. You have to be on all these medications. So you can ask your pharmacist for a review, and you may be able to go off some of this medication as we get older. Also, the small intestinal tract, there's a lot of people with IBS, irritable bowel syndrome. Irritable bowel syndrome is not a disease. It is a syndrome because you don't have anything, basically. You don't have Crohn's. You don't have ulcerative colitis. They've done the gluten test. You don't have irritable bowel disease, inflammatory bowel disease, which is the next one. So they just put you in this category. And usually it's people eat. I mean, I cure irritable bowel syndrome. It's crazy. I'm not a gut specialist. There are dietitians for that. but I just teach people how to chew and relax again. And you wouldn't believe they're not swallowing as much air. They're not getting all those pains in the small intestinal tract. Because if you have a big chunk going in, that small intestinal tract is trying to really break it down, and the pain. And then if the piece is not running down that 4 hours and it stays stuck, it starts fermenting, and then your small intestine starts getting bigger, and that's the pain. Okay, so it's really about trying to chew and trying those 4 different strategies. Inflammatory bowel disease, this is on the rise, and not sure why. Probably ultra processed foods. Watch the diet pops, things like that. I'm seeing all kinds of gastrointestinal issues with, we're talking about kids starting like, teenagers, Diet Coke, Diet Coke, Diet Coke. They keep in their 20s, they have a family, Diet Coke, caffeine. They're in their 30s, going into their 40s, and they have IBD because their bowels just can't take it. It's been 20 years of this. Okay. So we work a lot on that. So because the small intestinal tract, as well as we age, has less absorbability, we're not producing those enzymes. And what are enzymes? It's the spark that starts the digestion. So look at a spark plug. Spark plug in your car is not going to do anything until the spark activates it. Well, that's an enzyme. And we have lots of enzymes in our body that, for example, lactase enzyme is responsible for lactose. Okay, so we have specific enzymes in the body to digest specific things. And like I said, we have lower stomach acid and lower intrinsic factor. Now, these are nutrients that can be compromised due to low stomach acid and low intrinsic factor, and we just don't absorb. So these are things that you should be keeping an eye out with your doctor. But remember, food's first. So if you can get it through your diet, that's how we try and get it, okay? Because nutrients are better absorbed when you ingest them through foods, because Mother Nature did something to put it with this food for better absorbability. But for example, if you're B12 deficient and your doctor told you you're B12 deficient, you're going to go on 1,200 micromilligrams per day of B12, and then your doctor will keep an eye on it. Like mine was really low, and then I went on for a year of B12 every day, and then it was too high. So now I'm taking, like I took it out this morning, I have my B12 on the counter. I take it maybe 2 to 3 times a week now, just to keep it on the safe side. But I'm going for blood over there in a couple of weeks, so I'll keep an eye on that. Calcium is 1,200 milligrams per day after the age of 51. So there are some calcium calculators online, and I did in the previous webinars. If you go watch some of the recordings, I did talk more in depth about calcium, and that was the Pills and Potions supplement review webinar. Vitamin D3, actually there should be a 3 there, D3. Per Health Canada, it's 800 international units per day. We all have to supplement. Every Canadian needs to be on vitamin D3 because it's the sunshine vitamin, and any population on top of Los Angeles, we don't have the right axis of the earth, even in summer, even though we've had these hot summers, and then we put sunscreen on anyways. So everybody should be on 800 IUs, international units of vitamin D3. But they're only sold in 1,000, so 1,000 a day. If you have a deficiency like I did, I've had a deficiency like in the last 30 years, and I'm taking mega doses. And just this January, I'm finally, I think they cut off 75, I'm at 76. So it's very important to have your vitamin D checked. Iron, only in deficiencies. You're not taking extra iron if you're not in deficiency. Many times as we age, we're going to have an iron overload or hemochromatosis. And if you do have too much iron, you will be giving blood. You will be a great blood donor because giving blood every, is it 2 to 3 months, will keep your iron low. But then again, your doctor checks that. Magnesium is another thing that's not well absorbed. So that can be muscle cramping. So how much are you taking? It should be magnesium glycinate. I should add glycinate on that. Okay. Zinc is troubling right now. I'm seeing a lot of clients taking a lot of zinc. So be careful on that. If you're eating a lot of zinc foods, which are oysters and Brazilian nuts have zinc, but watch that upper limit. We don't want too much zinc because it can affect neurologically. And then, of course, your protein, because our muscles use it less. Our muscles use it less. So now the recommendations at Health Canada are 0.8 grams per kilogram, but now we're looking at increasing that. And now they're even talking 1.6 grams per kilogram body weight per day of protein. Think about that. So in previous webinars, I did talk about protein distribution, and that's important as well. So I want you guys to look at these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 nutrients, and that maybe you need to supplement or not, or you have too much or not enough, but your doctor can help you with that. So what's happened? So that's the small intestinal. So the mouth, the tongue, the esophagus. We talked about the esophagus is simply a tube, right, to get it down there. And then we talked about the small bowel. Now we're going to talk about the large. And, again, once it's there, right? And that's where the fermentation, it lasts about 24 hours. And do you need more or less probiotics? I have done a whole presentation on pro and pre and postbiotics, but I did add a few slides here just to remind people. So probiotics, you have your natural bacteria that you're born with in your gastrointestinal tract. You're born with it. So we have good and bad, but because the diets are ultra processed now, we're not getting it on a plant-based or prebiotics. So prebiotics they feed the good probiotics. So what we want to do in the bowel is increase our good bacteria and keep the bad ones like this. And most people, it's like this. So we could take live microbial organisms. So the fermented foods, the kefirs, the sauerkrauts. Oh, and it's cabbage season coming up, so you may want to make your own sauerkraut. The ones we buy in the store in a jar, they're already boiled, so there's not a lot of probiotics left in them. Just FYI with that, because they're in a jar, they have to can them and preserve them in a way. So it's your best to make them at home if you want, or you can go to specific shops, like I would say maybe Ukrainian, or where they might sell real sauerkraut or German foods or something. And then I think, well, the biggest thing is we don't get enough prebiotics, and those are plant-based foods. And we'll have a call to action in a minute about our fruits and vegetables, but we need to really, really go more plant-based to try and get those good bacteria up again. And then there's some discussions now about postbiotics. Well, what are those? They're byproducts. And those are like once all the food is gone and it's fermented and stuff, well, what's left are the postbiotics. And those are the ones that get excreted, okay? Those are the ones that go out when you have a bowel movement, okay? And these are the ones that when we're looking at weight, if there's a lot of butyrate in your diet, that means you're having a lot of fiber. So now when they're investigating stools, looking at what's broken down, we could tell how your diet has been and what's there and all these fragmentations. So the leftovers are excreted, and we can tell a lot about that, about what you're eating. And there's one that if it's high, we know you probably have a weight issue. I forget which it's called, but there's one that we could test for. And when people say that I don't know if you've heard of a fecal transplant. Well, they'll put fecal matter from a thin person that's always been thin into an obese person in as a probiotic in their large bowel, and they start losing weight. It's quite interesting because of this byproduct in the large bowel. I'm not really up on people, but not very many people want a fecal transplant. It's not very pleasant. Now, if I can just talk about fiber, of course, we want fiber in going down. What does fiber do? So the insoluble and the soluble. The insoluble is the one that scratches, okay? It scratches on its way down, and that's where it's going to scratch. If you have any cancerous cells, it scratches them out. So the insoluble ones are things that don't digest. So those are the brands of the world, okay? Those are the oat brands and the wheat brands. And, it's corn season right now, or it's almost over. So you'll see corn maybe in the toilet. And that's sometimes because we don't chew enough as well. Okay. So these are things that will go and scratch your intestinal tract and get rid of some of those cancerous cells that may be forming, and just keep the bowel and the large colon healthy. And here are some examples here. Of course, nuts and seeds. And look, it's all plant-based foods, right? Prevents constipation, maintains weight. They're just healthy things to have. So just this morning, and Antoine, you were privy to this. I was eating my all bran as we were getting set up for this webinar. Then you have the insoluble. The insoluble, they dissolve in water. So you'll know just by like when you put chia seeds in water, they become like gel-like. Ground flaxseed, they become gel-like. If you put beans, peas, and lentils, you have to rinse out the water because it becomes gel-like. Many fruits and vegetables, especially apples, and it's in season right now. Apple and pears are really, really high in soluble fibers. And not only does that help with digestion because it keeps the gel, it keeps all it keeps the water more in the rectum area, and so does the insoluble, the both. So if you have those little, if you have bowel movements that are very rock hard, you're going to need to have more fiber and more water in your diet because it in the rectum and then there's three parts to the large bowel. So in the ascending, transverse, and descending is when the water is being absorbed, and then it gets in the holding pattern in the rectum, and then that's when too much water is going out. So we need to keep that water in because that's when you get those little pellets. Okay. And then again, it's all fruits, vegetables, all plant-based. What's important in soluble fibers, this is where we'll get the cardiovascular protection. This is where it can reduce your cholesterol levels because soluble fibers takes cholesterol and throws it out into the bowels. Can stabilize your blood sugars better. So including insoluble and soluble fibers in your diet at every single meal is recommended. And I don't think I have a slide about water, but maybe that should follow the fiber. Water, water, water. And what's important with water is the distribution. So, some recent research came out just last week about to live longer and healthier, you should have 1 cup or 250 mils first thing in the morning. Before coffee, before tea, before anything, a full glass of water, and then you start your day. And I usually recommend 500 mils in the morning, then about 500 mils in the afternoon, early afternoon, and then another 500 mils late afternoon, early evening, but not too much because we don't want to get up and, have to pee all night. Okay, so now the distribution. So a cup first thing, and then your distribution of water throughout the day. Very important. And this is the rectum, like I said, this is where the water will go out of the rectum. And then the anus, keep it soft because we don't want anal fissures. We don't want ripping. We don't want hemorrhoids and things like that. So again, very important to have your soluble and insoluble fiber in the bowel so we avoid these things because you don't want, I just had a client who had, it was ripped inside the rectum. They had to go fix it. It's not a very pleasant operation. So we do want to keep it soft and keep everything running smoothly. So now we're going to talk about laxatives. Look at what's number 1. There's 15 here, right? Look at them. Prunes and prune juice are still the best. Your grandmother knew and your great-grandmother knew. And prune juice, half a cup of prune juice before bed with a bit of hot water. And I have some people who put some ground flax in there or some chia seeds and they, guzzle it back. I mean, perfect. Look at all your legumes. And especially as we age, we really want to get away from that red meat, away from even too much chicken, much more fish we should be eating, and maybe more plants, maybe more legumes. Try some. I just bought some frozen edamame. They're delicious. 3 minutes in the microwave. And then I just add a bit of garlic and stuff and I put it in things. Delicious. You can open 1 can a week and put a little bit every lunch, a little bit every supper on whatever you're eating, like chickpeas or lentils or things like that. Berries, of course, very, very high. Green leafies, which are all coming. And these are the green leafies that are more the cabbage family. So you're going to get like the kale, then the cabbages and the Brussels sprouts that are all coming in season. Kiwis. You have kiwis. They're very, very high. I'm going to go buy some kiwis. I'm going to put it on my list. Everybody, let's buy some kiwis. I don't know if they're in season though. They may be too expensive, but apples and pears are certainly in season right now. Go ahead. We talked about kefir, the yogurts of the world with those probiotics. We want to add that, but the probiotics, you can't have hot coffee with a probiotic, right? So if you're taking a probiotic first thing in the morning, you can't have hot coffee or tea within 45 minutes. Okay. I better put that in there. Tea. This is my first gastrointestinal real true webinar that I do this. So I'm just adding little notes here. This probiotic. Okay. Lemon juice, some people have a warm cup of water first thing in the morning, add a bit of lemon juice and stir it up. And they said that promotes, but if you have too much stomach acid and that turmeric, if you have too much stomach acid, people are starting to take turmeric and they're getting stomach acid problems. So be very careful. I don't want to promote any stomach issues because right now you could do a shooter. People are saying with lemon juice, turmeric, and something else, but it may cause a lot of stomach burning. Okay. Olives, olive oils. Okay, we're at 10:32. I'm doing good. Coffee. How many people say I have coffee in the morning? It stimulates my bowel. And senna and rhubarb. Senna is part of senna cot. It's a natural compound that's found. I believe it's it's a senna plant. And I used to buy just the leaves of the senna and put them in tea, but be very careful with senna. If you buy senna tea, you can buy them in tea bags. I have a client, she just soaks it a few seconds and then drinks that tea at night because it does keep water more so in the bowel, but it can be medicinal, so you have to be careful with senna. And of course, eat your rhubarb. Now we're going to talk a little bit about laxatives. And people, you don't want to depend too much on laxatives, right? And I think the biggest thing is that people think it's going to work right away, and like it doesn't. It takes 2 to 3 days. We usually recommend about 72 hours. And then you have to take it for at least a month. Okay. So take it with at least a month because, like not if you're going to take like certain ones, if it starts going like mineral oils, we'll talk about that in a minute. But like if you're going to take Metamucil, you have to take it like, once a month, like for at least a month to see like the full. And Metamucil is bulk forming. It stays in the bowel. If you put it in water, this is what keeps the water. It's gel-like, so it will increase the bowel, right? It will increase, and those are psyllium. Psyllium, you will see, I made to put my health mix in that. Psyllium, that's all it is, Metamucil, and it's 1 heaping teaspoon a day. Metamucil is also good for regulating blood sugars. If you want it for weight loss, because if you have Metamucil or psyllium before meals, you will reduce your food intake because you're full. So I get some of my clients who want to take Metamucil or start taking it for bowel health. I said, okay, well, why not take it just before supper? So instead of a glass of wine, you get a glass of Metamucil. If it can help reduce your portion size at supper, because that's usually the largest meal of the day. I was taking it at night for a while, and then I got up to pee all night. So now I take it in the morning, but I take it between my 2 cups of coffee. That's when I take my Metamucil, and it seems to work. So as long as you're taking it about the same time. Then there's the osmotic laxative. So what that does, it changes the bowel osmolality, it's called. So like the pH of the bowel, the bowel doesn't like it. So it brings water into the bowel. Okay. Those are the milk of magnesias of the world. And that's the Restorelax of the world. So it is a chemical process. It is a chemical that goes in, but it's a natural process that goes into the bowel. I don't like people depending on those things. I like to get them more on Metamucil. I do have a health mix, and I'll put it in a slide for future use, but it's called Helen's Health Mix, and it's 4 parts. Okay. You guys listening? 4 parts. You all go to the bulk bar to get these. Psyllium husks, psyllium is PSY, psyllium husks, ground flax, chia seeds, and oat bran. You can do wheat bran if you want. I do oat bran because it's low gluten that way. I can't say gluten-free because it's at the bulk barn, but it's low gluten. And then you get home and you put like all the, I get like 2 scoops of each in the bags. And then when I get home, I have a big bowl, I mix it all. And then I have a mason jar that I fill, and I leave it beside the cereal, and I have another mason jar beside the yogurts in the fridge. So my husband remembers to take it. And the rest, I just Ziploc it and throw it in the freezer. So when my 2 mason jars are empty, I just keep refilling them so that we always have our 2 tablespoons per day. So it doesn't taste anything. It's pretty sawdust. So you could put it on salads. The other day I had egg salad sandwich. So before I closed the sandwich, I sprinkled it on top and closed it. I sprinkle it on top of my yogurt in the morning. Just don't mix it in anything because it's so high fiber and soluble fibers that it will start becoming like it starts absorbing the water. So if you put it in your yogurt and you walk away for 10 minutes, come back, you're going to have to add milk or something because it gets really hard. Okay. So that's my health mix. The next one, stimulate laxative. So these are things that it's the muscle it works on. So it's the muscle. So you'll see a lot of this in retirement homes and nursing homes. We want to avoid these as much as possible because your muscle becomes accustomed to it. So if we can go to more of the bulk forming and metamucils and Helen's health mix or something like that, that's much better. But sometimes we're stuck, right? So we need these things. Interesting now in a lot of the long-term care facilities, we're putting like a mixture of a mashed white bean in mashed potatoes for all residents. We're mixing more white beans, let's say in cream soups and stuff for all residents. And the research tells us that, the use of these stimulants has gone way down. So just by adding some stuff to a diet, and our bowels do get slower as we age. Stool softeners, those are more like mineral oil. So do you guys remember, what was it? It wasn't cod liver oil. Well, that too, but mineral oils because of it increases the water in the bowel plus the fat, okay? Plus the fat. And that's also where you're looking at the olive oils and some fat in your diet because it helps the passage and eases the passage. And then we have, of course, the more medically induced, where we really want to get rid of everything in the bowel. And that's your colonoscopy preps. As you all know, they're more bile salts, things like that. So those, of course, only on the indication of your doctor, and they're very short period of time. Okay, so if you're on any of these, you might want to look at it and might say, okay, well, maybe I'll try. But don't go off. Like if you're on Restorelax, like right now I have a bunch of clients on Restorelax. So now we're trying a Metamucil, but he stays on the Restorelax. Trying some Metamucil, we're trying the health mix, and eventually we're going to bring the Restorelax off and then just keep him on these bulk forming laxative because it's more natural. Okay. There's also cereal now like Bran Buds, All Bran, things like that do have that higher fiber content. A little bit about FODMAP. Now, a lot of people with irritable bowel syndrome have tried the diet. This is a diet called FODMAP. And if you go to the Canadian Digestive Health Foundation, there's a lot of information about digestive health. But FODMAP is not meant to be a long-term diet. FODMAP is meant to, you take everything out pretty well, and then we start reintroducing. And what we take out is fermentable foods and the FODMAP food. So FODMAP spells something. F, fermentable. O, oligosaccharides. These are sugars that ferment. Disaccharides are sugars that ferment. Monosaccharides again, and polyols. So depending on where you fall, for example, disaccharides are the lactose of the world, okay? The fermentable, the fructose is highly fermentable. So things like apples have a lot of fructose in them, but there's all these lists. So it doesn't mean you're never going to eat an apple for the rest of your life. It means like me, I can't just eat an apple and run. I cut it in sections and I eat it slowly because I love apples and then I don't have any problems, right? So we have to work on that. And the last one, the polyols, sorbitol is found in a lot of diet foods. And I did have a client, 7 packs of gum a day. I never asked the question, 7 packs of Trident bubble gum a day. The poor dentist in the jaw, first of all. And she was having so much diarrhea and she was only 17 and her mom brought her in. And I was like, okay, wow. So once she told me that, because she didn't really want to say anything about her gum addiction. So we took her off that because the sorbitol was causing a lot of health issues. There are dietitians that specialize in FODMAPs. There's dietitians that specialize in ulcerative colitis, Crohn's. Those are the dietitians that you want to seek out. While I'm on the subject, those who are having really bad bowel issues, you go on Dietitians of Canada website, dietitians.ca. Okay. And then anybody across Canada, and then you go to find a dietitian. And then it'll ask you for your postal code. You put your postal code in, and then it'll ask you what you're looking for. So there's like check boxes. So then you put you tell them for bowel health or gastrointestinal, check that, and then enter, and then it'll give you all the dietitians in your area. Although now we do virtual, so it's not really in your area, but dietitians, so you find one, and I know in Ottawa, who I refer to, there's certain ones that specialize in different things. And so you need to find a dietitian that specializes in that. I'm very much of a generalist and more of a weight. I'm more the weight specialist in people come to me with weight issues. And what goes with that, okay? Heart disease, diabetes, hypertension, things like that. PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome. Okay, so dietitians.ca and then click find a dietitian. Best diet to remain healthy as we age. So as I said, the highest nutrients for the lowest calories. And then we're going to talk about food fortification and functional foods, which I did a whole webinar on, but I thought I'd bring it back. And eating enough without the weight gain, because as we age, we certainly don't want weight gain because our joints, our organs, like your pancreas only has so much insulin. So if you're at one size, okay, but then it gets tired, right? But if you start increasing in size, you're not going to have enough insulin to work properly in your body. And this is when diabetes happens. So we want to eat high nutrient foods. So what is that? Plant-based fruits, vegetables. I know I sound boring, but that's what it is. So with food fortification in Canada, we do have some food fortification that's brought on by Health Canada. For example, we have vitamin D3. We have in milk, we have vitamin Bs that are in our flours. You'll see in wheat products and cereal along with folic acid, although we're reassessing the folic acid thing because that was for pregnant women, but pregnant women in Canada or around the world, it's a very short period of time and it's only specific to one sex. And folic acid is a cell regeneration. So since we introduced it in mostly wheat products in Canada, we have a lot less spina bifida and cleft palates. But as we get older, we don't want cell regeneration because that's cancer promoting, right? So now we're reassessing. And then there's some calcium that's been added to foods because osteoporosis is it's an epidemic right now. So all of you listening today, please make sure your calcium that you ingest first is always high enough at 1200. And then if you need a supplement at that, and there's a bunch of calcium calculators online, osteoporosis.ca has a good one. So we do have some food fortification in Canada, but functional foods are a little bit different. And you'll see functional foods, they're rearing their head a bit more. We have the natural functional foods. For example, we know that red fruits and vegetables have a lot of antioxidants that can reduce oxidative stress on the body. We know that whole grains can reduce gastrointestinal issues. We know that a quarter cup of nuts a day called the portfolio diet can reduce some symptoms of cardiovascular disease. So these are naturally found. Again, fruits, vegetables, whole grains, nuts, seeds, blah, blah, blah. It's the same messaging all the time. It's really interesting. And then we have the modified foods. So the modified foods are things like that have added components to them. And for example, right now the protein, the Tim Hortons and Starbucks, have you guys heard of their protein? I think they're just using a high protein milk. I love high protein milk. I buy high protein milk only. Instead of 9 grams of protein for 1 cup, it's 18. So if I'm having like an egg salad sandwich for lunch that I'm not getting enough protein, I'll just have like half a glass of milk. I'm getting calcium, plus I'm getting 10 grams of protein or 9 to 10 grams. It's amazing. So you're going to start seeing some of these functional foods, modified foods, and we're going to see a lot more of that coming up. But you have to keep in mind, because the baby boomers are getting older, they're adding stuff to foods that they're getting permission from Health Canada. But sometimes they're ultra processed foods, right? So if you take like, I don't know, a carrot, well, we're not going to inject it with something, right? So a carrot's a carrot's a carrot. So I'd rather you eat food first and their natural components. And then if you need more, like I have high protein milk. Like I added high protein milk because I didn't have enough protein in my diet on a regular basis. But for me to have more protein in my diet, I'd gain weight. So, it's that fine balance. So of course, naturally occurring is always best. The fish, I can't tell you enough about omega-3s. And again, I did a whole segment on that in a previous webinar. And then watch the collagens. And now we're seeing a lot of creatine coming up, which I did talk about in our last webinar. So just to give you an example of how functional beverages are coming up, we've seen the beverages with energy drinks, sports drinks. Those are the older ones. Then we saw, okay, more probiotics added, kombucha, functional water, those vitamin waters we saw. Now we're seeing a lot more protein drinks. Tim Hortons, if Tim Hortons and Starbucks is doing it, that means it's going to really increase. We have, of course, our relaxation drinks. And now we're seeing more collagen infused and all that stuff. Collagen, once it's ingested, it doesn't necessarily, we can't find the research, or we haven't, the research is not telling us that it's going to make you younger. It can help your nails, but that's about it so far. It's not saying it can't, but we just don't have the research to support it. So putting it all together. So what do we do as we age? Well, this is the framework, right? Protein at every meal, make sure it's distributed. Grains at every meal, but watch your grains, watch your, like the grains my husband have per meal and what I can have per meal. I try and keep it to about 150 calories per meal, like my toast or my wraps or my pitas. And my husband could probably go up to 250, 300 because he's like twice my size, right? So I think it's not about taking grains out of your diet, but watch the pasta. We eat way too much pasta, right? 300 calories of pasta is only a cup cooked. So I only get half a cup, but then my plate's empty. So I put a lot of vegetables in the pasta and then my sauce on top, right? And there's your protein distribution. And then we want more plant-based, of course. And then there's a call to action with fruits and vegetables. Okay, everybody, and I've said this many times in my webinar, you need to have for the rest of your life and for your children and your grandchildren, 2 to 3 fruit every single day. A fruit serving is only half a cup, no air. Meaning, like half a cup of applesauce, for example, is a serving, but half a cup of raspberries, you probably need 2/3 of a cup because there's a lot of air displacement in there. So if you can have 2 to 3 servings every single day and there's more to life than a banana. There's more to life than a banana. And you say, well, I have to take it for potassium. All your citrus has a lot of potassium plus a lot of vitamin C in there. Pretty well, most of your fruits and vegetables. Kiwis have a lot of potassium. And then everybody, half your plate vegetables at lunch and half your plate vegetables at dinner. This seems so simple, but it's not. If everybody could just do this in Canada, oh my goodness, we would have such a more healthy population. So that's your call to action. At the same time as the protein and the grains, and then half your plate vegetables. There's your fruit in the morning, and maybe fruit, produce, and protein as a snack, and then plant-based, try and go more towards that. And I'm not talking being a vegan or vegetarian here. I'm talking about let's get some nuts and seeds, but watch the calories, right? Because like half a cup of nuts is like 400 calories. So the recommendations are a quarter cup a day. But for quarter cup a day, for me, it's displacing a lot of other calories. Eat as close to the farm as possible. Okay, this is the closing message. If you can eat as close to the farm as possible, fiber, 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 chew, 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 and then, work with your doctor, work with a dietitian. Do you need supplements? And how much? Thank you very much. And that's it for me today. I will, and our next webinar is on diabetes, and it's going to be like November 17th or something like that. So I hope you can join us.
Okay, we have a few questions, Hélène. See. So if you chew less and swallow larger chunks, will this help you lose weight via less nutrients?
No, because you're still going to get the calories. So you still get the calories, unfortunately. Yeah, it's just the nutrients can get caught in there and just less absorption, but no. No. And eating fast will actually make you gain weight. Why? Because it does take 20 minutes for your stomach to tell your brain that you're full. Do you know how much food you can eat in 20 minutes? Most people eat a full meal in under 10. So hence, by slowing it down and chewing, you will actually lose weight.
Okay. Is club soda also bad for your digestive tract?
Very good question. In my career, I didn't do a lot of one-to-one counseling. I was more of a nutrition consultant for pharmaceuticals, food industry, dietitian for hire, basically. So SodaStream, I was the spokesperson. I did some videos for them. So I did a lot of research around carbonated. And because SodaStream is simply water that you carbonate, right? You can't put anything in it and you're going to carbonate it. It'll explode your machine. So the carbon itself, you're going to burp it and fart it out. I mean, it's gas. But if you drink too much, it will irritate your esophagus and your stomach. So be careful. So the product itself is not a problem. It's the quantities. And some people have put like lemon juice. So again, the acid around it. So that's what I would recommend is just not too much and just watch if it starts burning that esophagus because of the bubbles, right? But as far as the minerals that are in it, like if you're going to just put carbon dioxide in water, like a soda stream machine, you're not getting the sodium neither. So you have to watch some of the sodiums in some of these if they're in a bottle pre-made. So it's not a problem nutritionally. Of course, it depends on the source, and of course, it depends on the esophagus.
What about magnesium citrate?
So magnesium citrate, there's different magnesiums, oxalates, citrates, there's all different magnesiums. The harsher magnesiums, like the milk of magnesia and those that will give you diarrhea and things like that, we don't want that on a regular basis. So magnesium helps with smooth muscle. So it helps the bowel, it helps the heart, it helps your muscles. We absorb it much less. I would like all my clients over 50 to be on magnesium, but it's glycinate, GLYC, glycinate or bisglycinate. Sometimes there's a bis in front, BIS. And so that's the less harsh, and that's the one that'll just, be absorbed well, help your smooth muscle, helps you sleep, magnesium. So you'd always take it at bedtime, and no more than 400 to 500 milligrams per day. Like I take, it's Pure, it's called Pure, and it is Ottawa company, it's Canadian company, Pure, but you got to get it on Amazon or there's some pharmacies that carry it. And Orange is also has a glycinate, a good glycinate, and mine is like 165 milligrams. And I take it at bed. My husband takes 2 tablets at bed, but again, he's twice my size, right? So if it starts giving you diarrhea, glycinate should not. So that's why it's careful with the citrates and the oxalates and all that kind of stuff.
Okay, the next question. Does the way you cook the greens impact how they get digested? For example, steamed, poached versus boiled.
Yes, very good questions. Asparagus, carrots, broccoli, you get better nutrient absorption if it's cooked. So by eating a raw carrot or cooked carrot, just because it's so hard and then we don't masticate it enough. So from cooking to raw, there are certain foods that the nutrients are better absorbed cooked, believe it or not.
Mm.
The best way to cook any vegetable or fruit is microwave because you don't need water and most of the nutrients stay within. I know it's shocking, microwave, but most of the nutrients stay within the food. The second best is steaming. The third best is boiling because you're boiling it in water and the nutrients get deposited in the water. So unless you're going to use the water in a soup later, the best is microwave. So I just have like a Pyrex bowl and then I have one of those things on top. I just put a plate on top of it. Like I put broccoli, I don't put water or anything. I put broccoli in the microwave, put it on top, put it for 3 minutes, check it, another minute or two, check it, perfect. So,
Hey,
and it
I'm
does
going
help
to do
with
that.
mastication. It does help with mastication as well, if they're slightly cooked, right? Especially if you have dentition issues.
Okay. The next question is, why is it not recommended to take probiotic with coffee? Does this include eating Greek yogurt with coffee in the morning?
Yeah, because they're live cultures. You're gonna kill them. Yes. There's been a lot of research done on that, and that's why some of the capsules now it bypasses the esophagus and the stomach and will only open in the small bowel. So those freeze-dried ones. Although I do like better natural sources and yogurt and kefir and things like that. So yes, you have to be careful in the morning because you're gonna. I don't think they all get killed. I did do a TV segment on that years ago. Of course, technology has come better and has come around. It was a CBC segment on probiotics. And when I did a lot of research on it, yes, it was within 15 minutes. So, yeah, you should be careful. You don't want to kill them, right? If you're going to eat them, you might as well have them live.
There are a couple of questions about what you were putting in your mason jar for sprinkling. Is this something that you could provide the information perhaps when we send out the newsletter?
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah,
So you're going
because
to
that's
remind me? Somebody will remind me?
yeah.
Health mix.
Okay. So again, the same thing and the questions. Yeah. My God, I got 4 or 5 of them
Okay.
about that. Okay. Next question is, after long sitting periods, I tend to have too much water in my stool. How can that be prevented?
Believe it or not, by taking Metamucil. So Metamucil, when it first came out, right, or psyllium, When it first came out, we were like, oh, it gives you diarrhea. No, it absorbs water in the bowel. It absorbs water in the bowel. So things that absorb water are psyllium husks, ground flax, chia seeds. So those three things will absorb. So my health mix will probably help with absorption. If you're a little scared to start, I would just start because Metamucil has been around the block for many, many years. And you can get the, I like the orange one because it tastes like Tang. Remember Tang when we were kids? Our parents couldn't
Yeah.
afford it, so we never had it. But I like Tang. So I kind of mix my Metamucil like strong and I take a couple little sips and it's good. And then I fill it with water and then. So I would strongly suggest more, it's your soluble fibers that you need. So just so that they gelatinize the bowel. And the other thing is sitting so long. That's another issue, right? In this, in our time period that we are post-COVID, everybody's sitting too much. So that's what I would recommend. If not, probably need to see a specialist to see what's going on there.
Are persons having suffered from fecaloma susceptible to relapses after successful treatment of their original diagnosis?
I don't know what that
I
is.
don't I don't know either. Fecaloma.
They
I
can
don't know.
contact me directly. Have them contact me
Okay.
directly.
Okay. Somebody said, what do you mean watch the collagens? High protein milk.
So the collagen, people swear by it. People say I'm not aging as quickly. The biggest thing with collagen, the research that we're doing, wouldn't it be great? Wouldn't it be great if it prevented wrinkles? I'd be taking it by the gallons, believe me. But we can't find like there's no research saying, okay, it makes you younger. The only research that is supported, it makes your nails better. Okay. Point blank. It doesn't make you younger. It doesn't help because collagen comes from the inside out. When you digest collagen in the stomach, your stomach acid breaks it down. So it's not helping a lot, it's not helping with cell regeneration or aging. But collagen has 8 grams of protein. So by taking some collagen in the morning, hey, it's going to help your nails. Hey, you're going to get 8 grams of protein extra, right? And usually breakfast is the hardest meal to get protein. And maybe one day the research will come out to support skin health. It's not there, but hey, it's not going to hurt you, I don't think. The research tells us it's not going to hurt you. If anything, there is protein, so why not take it? That's like omega-3s. Why not take them? They're only helps dementia, helps heart health, everything. There's no negative, so take omega-3s, right? So same thing with collagen, but the research is not there for, oh, I take it, it makes my skin younger. No. But nails, and it does have protein, which will help your muscles. So
We
maybe
have
the
a few
muscles
more
in the
questions.
face. I would say maybe the muscles in the face, instead of like sagging like this, maybe the collagen will help keep your muscles stronger in the face. So may look younger, but it's not giving you collagen in the cells that's produced in your body.
Okay, we have a number of questions that we won't be able to get through. So what I
The
suggest
protein
is,
milk. I wanted to answer the protein milk.
okay,
The protein milk is really yummy. It's very creamy. I really like it. And all the companies have it now. Nutrell, Seal Test, Nielsen, Fairlife, they all have they all have a high protein milk. So when you look at the milk in the showcase, there's always one on sale, always one. So, and they have a big 18G on the front, like a big circle, and you'll see 18G, which is 18 grams. So this week I got it. I got Nutrell. Nutrell was on sale last week. It's a little bit more expensive than your regular milk, but I'm drinking half as much, right? And for me, at a certain age, I don't want all those calories of milk. I do want the calcium. I don't want osteoporosis. I love milk in my cereal, and I just drink a glass of milk. I'm a person who was raised on milk. I like it. So I include it in my diet, but I do like the high protein milk. So you'll see it's readily available. Even at Shoppers, they have it now.
okay. Thank you very much. Thank you everybody for the questions, and sorry we couldn't get through them, but I invite you to put the questions in the reply. So thank you very much for your participation today, everybody. And a big thank you to you, Hélène C., for your wonderful presentation today. We certainly learned a lot about things that we don't really think about, but we certainly should. And so for everybody, please look out for our follow-up email, and it will include the recording of today's session, as well as contact information for our presenter. I also want to let you know that our annual mega recruitment drive is now on. So until December 31st, each time you refer someone to the association and they join, you will be entered into our draw for some great prizes. And these include a grand prize of a $20,000 travel voucher, courtesy of Colette, and a $5,000 spending cash, courtesy of Bel Air Direct.
Wow.
The more people you successfully refer, the more chances you have of winning. Remember that you can invite non-members. Yeah.
I asked my girlfriend who retired from the post office, and I said, well, because she wanted to listen to a webinar. I said, well, you should be part of the National Association. And she said that she couldn't be. Is that true?
Yeah, well, we can talk about that. But yes, definitely there are some groups of the public service that can belong, and it's listed on our website.
Okay.
And there are other groups that they're not part of the federal retirees. So I'd like to invite everybody to invite non-members to attend our webinars and to try us as a guest. So to register for upcoming webinars, visit our Ottawa branch website at nafrottawa.com. So thank you everyone for this great presentation from Hélène, and we look forward to seeing you at another webinar that we will be presenting. We have a webinar tomorrow for RBC Securities. Thank you very much, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.